Hey, what's going on, guys? So it's been a while since we've taken a look at anything from the G-Frame line. This is G-Frame FA03, so of the FA sub-series of G-Frame, this is the third set. This set has 4 different mobile suits in it. We've got the Shining Gundam, the Zaku II FZ, the Gym Custom, and the Zeta Gundam Revive version of the G-Frame. So the G-Frame in general, not really one of my favorite lines of, I guess it is sort of like a candy toy, I guess, sort of candy toy model kits of these. And there's definitely reasons to love the G-Frame releases. That said, for me personally, I just kind of prefer, sticking with high grades, whatever other model kits. But the nice thing about the G-Frame line is that they are generally going to be more detailed than their high grade counterparts for a similar size. These are usually smaller than 1/44 scale, so they're going to be more kind of like 1 to 180, 1/200 scale, somewhere around there maybe. Just slightly smaller than 1/44 scale anyway. Yeah, there's some pros and cons, but what is really great about this set is that there's some pretty cool mobile suits in this particular set, so that's why I wanted to check it out. Namely the Zeta Gundam with the Zeta Ver.Ka Master Grade on the way. I'm trying to check out a lot of different cool Zeta stuff to kind of show you guys some of your different options as far if you are a Zeta fan, here are a lot of the different options that you have available to you. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. G-Frame FA03. And because this is essentially a candy toy set, this is in just its store display box. You can see the perforated edge where this is meant to just be, you're supposed to rip off the top of this and then just put it on a shelf in a store in Japan, essentially. Is where this is for. But one thing to note with a box like this, as you can see here, there's 4 different mobile suits. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 2, 10 boxes in here. So you will have doubles. If you order a box like this, you will have doubles of one of them. And with this set, we have double of the Gym Custom, which is actually pretty cool, just because then you can, with it being a grunt suit, it kind of makes sense. Doubles of the Zaku II FZ, I guess maybe could have been cool as well. Even in 0080, I think we only ever see one of those, so I guess it makes sense. It's cool that we have 2 of the Gym Custom. If you wanted to customize these even further, you could add different waterslide decals on here to make them like a different number or something, like a 02 and a 03, something like that, for example, or on their shields or something. But okay, we're gonna go in numerical order, which means we're starting down here with the Shining Gundam. Now, if any of you guys are unfamiliar with the G-Frame line, this is how they are sold, I believe, in Japan, and only for international release are these actually packaged together as one set. So in Japan, you can get them separately like this, which is where this box is from, by the way, obviously. So you have set 52A and 52F. So 52A stands for armor, as in this is basically just the armor set. 52F will be F standing for frame, as this is the frame set. Now you do have a frame with this one with just the armor set, but it's just the armor set and a static frame that doesn't move. And then this one, the frame set comes with a movable frame, and then also will give you some more accessories, including some parts to make this in its shining mode, I guess, and then a beam saber, which unfortunately looks like it's not going to be colored correctly. But you have to remember that these are, again, just going to be candy toys that I believe in Japan sell for 500 to 700 yen each for each of these boxes. So to get the full set here, for the Shining Gundam, for example, would be around 1,200 to 1,400 yen, if I remember correctly, something like that. So now that we're all up to speed on what the G-Frame line is all about, let's just kind of take a quick look here around the box. So on the side there, it's just going to show you the lineup. So for these ones here, it's showing the alternate set from what's in the box here for the Shining Gundam. The 2 options for the Zaku II FZ, the frame and the armor sets, the Gym Custom, the frame and the armor set, and then the Zeta Gundam, the frame and the armor set. So, and it looks like for instructions, they're just having you scan this QR code, and so rather than including a paper set of instructions in every box, they just have a QR code, and you can go up there on your phone, look up the instructions with. I think is great. I think that's really cool, and a way for Bandai to, just save on paper anyway. I don't think that's going to necessarily be any sort of monetary savings that's passed on to the customers, we're gonna be paying 100 yen less for this because it's not including paper, but it's at least more environmentally friendly. So you do have your candy in here, which is just going to be this piece of standard Bandai chewing gum. And then there is going to be some assembly required here for these. So it's mostly pre-built, which I guess it has been a while since I've built one of these, because I don't remember them being this much assembled. As far as I remember, a lot of these parts were more on runners before, but all right. Anyway, let me go ahead and put it together. Right now, here he is all put together, and the detail is really nice, very prominent seam line. Even before I zoomed in, I feel like you could really see that. Even though it is hidden in the details, it does still seem pretty obvious, but I guess once you have the kit all panel lined and everything, if you're gonna paint it even as well,
that is going to be pretty well hidden, that seam line there, just because there's a lot of details, and I think everywhere where that goes, it seems like there is a detail to hide that seam there, so that's good. Here on the back, the same thing there. You don't have any hollow spaces here at the back of the thigh. You do have a seam line right there, but again, it's hidden as a pen line. So overall, I gotta say, you would have pretty minimal seam line removal work to have to do on this. Because even up here on the shoulder is another common area where you might have a seam. There's nothing there. The pre-printed gold and painted details on there look really nice, especially here on the chest, that metallic green part right there. A little bit of gold details. This is kind of like under the shoulder. If I take the shoulder part off of there just to make it a little bit easier and extend that out, you can see that gold printed inside of there as well, so that just kind of raises and lowers there. The beam saber handles, as you can see, are just kind of molded into there. Those aren't actually removable, so really as it is now, it's just kind of a statue in a decent pose, not too bad. The open hands are a bit disappointing. I wish that the armor, or like this version of it where it's just the armor in a static pose, came with closed fists, because I mean that's what I feel like you would normally want. If you're just going to have it just there in this pose, you're going to want to have it just with closed fists. You don't really need the open hands, and the open hands should be an added accessory you get with the frame set. Anyway, in this set we do also get this connection arm right here, and what you can do with this is actually, once we have the frame, once we change out the frame in this, basically the static pose frame which is in there now, you're able to kind of transform that, use those parts to make a base, and then this is your connection arm for the base, so that once you have the articulated frame in there, you can have this up on a little base, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, and then up next, let's go ahead and take a look at the frame set for that, which will give us our option parts. And with this, these parts, or this frame anyway, as you can see, is going to be some assembly required for just putting that frame together. And then all the other option parts here, which have like the pre-painting and everything on them, the shining finger hand, these gold frame, I guess frame, yeah, frame parts, these parts in gold anyway. Some other parts for the head and feet there. A cool core fighter and our beam saber accessories. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. Okay, and then contents all put together. Here is that movable frame, and it is very nicely articulated. Could be very good if you wanted to use this as just a frame for like a 1/44 scale kit bash project. It's not exactly 1/44 scale. Just to give you guys a quick size comparison here with the strike, you can see it's a little bit smaller, although I think you could definitely stretch the proportions. I mean, if you're going to be going through the process of trying to kit bash this frame into basically kit bashing like HG parts onto this frame, you could definitely make a few modifications of the proportions to make it proportioned out right, or you know, using a smaller mobile suit like the crossbone or something like that. But in here we also have the beam saber, which is unfortunately just all black. We've got the core fighter, which is very cool, and you can take this part off of there and plug this onto the back for its backpack. We've got the alternate version of the head for the hyper mode, and you'll just have to swap out the part at the front of the head there. Gold parts for in the gauntlets on the arms, you'll add those in. Your shining finger hand, which is very cool in this metallic silvery green. And then alternate pieces here for the feet, which are pretty inconsequential, just because they're like slightly longer, and that's gonna be about the extent of that, really. Let me go ahead and pull all the armor off of our static pose frame and get it onto our articulated frame and see how it looks. All right, here he is, and there we've got the shining finger on there. And one thing that I forgot to point out is down here on the legs that these parts do open up, and this is on the, if you have just the armor version, the non-articulated frame, it still does this anyway. This is not changed. So both versions can open up there at the leg. Down here at the ankle armor, you're just going to transform it just by rotating those parts down. For the hyper mode, that's really kind of about it. And the backpack is plugged onto there like so. Now all the articulation of this is vastly improved now, and it basically has all the articulation that you would expect for kind of your standard high grade, basically. Double joints in the knees and elbows, ball joints at like the hips and shoulder connections. Some of those mentioned ball joints can be a little bit loose, as they can pop out at those ball joints quite easily, so that is something you're gonna have to deal with, unfortunately. But here's how that static frame looks when you fold that up to make it into your stand, which should be, you know, helpful. Like I said, now that you have this much more articulated frame, you're going to want to pose it in some sort of cool pose, and we can use this for that. Honestly, my biggest disappointment with this figure would just be the fact that the beam saber is like that. So we have all this nice pre-printing on everything, and even if they would have used this same kind of light metallic bluish green like there for the shining finger, for the beam effect on this, I would not have minded that at all. At least have the beam effect, and then the handle, I mean, would have been nice and white. So yeah, it's a shame that this is what it is, but everything else about this is really nice.
All right, up next, the Zaku II FZ. As I have said many a times, the Zaku II FZ, probably my least favorite version of the Zaku II. That said, I think that this G-frame version actually doesn't look too bad, especially once you get the frame in there. And you don't really have a whole lot in terms of the accessories with this one. You have that little snowman, which is kind of interesting, or that little Santa. I mean, obviously the much more articulated frame will be nice. An alternate part there for the head, similar to the HG. And then the Zaku machine gun, this version of the Zaku machine gun, and the Heat Hawk there. We'll get into that in a moment here, just for the armor set here, which is just going to give us that static pose. Yeah, I think this version of the Zaku II FZ, not too bad looking, just because the details on it are nice, and the proportions, everything, I like this better than the high grade version, and probably the RE, I guess, in terms of the details and proportions and everything. But let's go ahead and get this guy all put together and check him out.
Alright, so here we are all put together, and I gotta say, man, these hands are horrendous. And as I understand it, I believe that in the G-frame series, they basically have like two sets of hands, like EFSF style hands and Xeon type hands. And these being the ones that probably would work fine, like for the Sazabi. For this kit though, I mean, they just look ridiculous. So I really am looking forward to getting the frame set, like holding hands on there. I think that's going to look so much better for this. But otherwise, other than that, all the details, everything on this do look really nice. It's a nice head sculpt on there. The eye, the mono eye is nice and bright with that metallic pink. Going down here onto the legs, again, some nice pre-painting for these color accents. Kind of cool feature here on the back, this little thruster is able to move up and down there on the back of the leg. We are going to have a seam line here going down the side of the leg, very similar to like the Origin Zaku kits, the HGs. But otherwise, like I said, you do have some nice detail. There's the backpack, the arms, quite chunky forearms here as well. And that's kind of subjective whether you may like that aspect of the design or not. But like I said, as someone who does not like the FZ, this is a pretty nice interpretation of the design, I do have to say. So let's go ahead and take a look at the frame set. Like I said, it's not really a whole lot in here other than the frame, as it would appear, unless for whatever reason there's something they're not showing on the outside of the box. But there you go, as you can see, there's all our frame. And then here's our accessories. And I guess, yeah, not too substantial, but that Santa is quite large. That's actually a much bigger accessory than I expected. Let's check these parts out. All right, with that frame installed and with hands which are now still quite large and still look a bit weird, at least they're, you know, at least a closed hand, or, you know, holding hand, weapon holding hand, and maybe once we get some weapons in the hands will look a little bit nicer. Still not really a big fan of the hands on this guy, but at least now we've got much more articulation built into this. Still the same issue of the ball joints not being super secure, but that aside, nice double joint here in the knee is going to give you a pretty good knee bend there, and the same thing up here in the elbows. You've got a pretty good full elbow bend there. Another seam line that this one has that I forgot to mention before is just going to be up here on the shoulder, a pretty common one on any kind of Zaku. Also should mention that if you pop off the top, you can actually turn the mono eye. So that is something, of course, it's not special to the frame version. You can do that with just the regular, with just the base armor kit, but you can rotate that mono eye like this. Now getting into our extra parts, here's our alternate head. And I definitely prefer this style head. I think this is one of the reasons why I don't really like the Zaku II FZ. The head looks like it's a regular Zaku II head that got squished. So once we put this head onto there, it's gonna be much more cool looking, and I think also just kind of fits to the design really quite well. If you take a look at it like that, looks pretty cool. Its weapons here, just like with the Shining Gundam, are just all in all black, but in this case it's not really too much of an issue. Or it's not like a black, I should say. It's a super dark gunmetal color, so it's slightly metallic. But the rifle, just being all in that dark gunmetal, looks fine. The Heat Hawk, you know, would be nice if this was colored, and especially the end there, but not too bad with this just being all in that dark metallic. And then yeah, our little Santa, which is pretty large. You know, it's small, but you know, it's pretty good sized little Santa figurine that you can put up on your shelf or whatever. Obviously it's going to look better once it's actually all like painted up. Has a little hard point there at the back, so you can actually attach this up onto a base to have it throwing. You could make it, I think it could be a cool little diorama, make it look like, use your open hand from the armor set and use like some forced perspective, maybe make it look like he's like throwing the Santa and have this like closer up in some sort of like little vignette diorama kind of thing. Could be kind of interesting. But anyway, all right, up next, the Gym Custom. Another design that I've always had sort of mixed feelings about the Gym Custom. It's a cool design, so I don't know why I've never kind of been more interested in it. I don't know, I think it's maybe just the color scheme has always just been kind of meh on it, but it is really cool design. That and maybe the fact that like the MG and the HD versions are both kind of old and dated, and I guess maybe if we got like a newer updated model kit version of it, then maybe I would be more excited to check one out. But I've never built one actually, so this is gonna be my first time, I guess, sort of quasi building one, as this is sort of a model kit, I guess. Do you guys consider these as model kits? I would, just because I mean they involve cutting parts off runners generally, even though I guess this new series now we're not really doing that with at least just the armor sets anyway. So I mean, considering that it's just a like assembly thing, it's sort of blurring the line as to whether it's a model kit or not, but let's go ahead and check it out. All right, here he is. And yeah, once again, man, those open hands, I don't really know why they go for open hands for the base model, the armor version. Just seems like the closed fist of the holding hands would just be the much better way to go. I guess with nothing to hold, it's kind of weird to have holding hands, but it is just kind of weird to be standing in a pose like that with your hands like that. I don't know, it's kind of weird. One thing that I realized I haven't really shown you guys on these is that the bottoms of the feet are really nicely detailed. You do have a little bit of hollow gap on this one right there, for example. The seam lines on the legs are nicely hidden as there's nothing on the front. It's here on the side, but they kind of overlap there at the calf, and so you only have a little bit of seam right here, and it's hidden as a panel line until you get around here onto the back, and then you have this seam for like the two back halves of that kind of, the seam goes right through all this detail there on the back side. Fortunately, it's at the back side, and so long as you keep it like facing the front, you're not really going to be too bothered by that, I feel like, or not going to notice that too much. Up here at the arms, the seam is on the side in the panel line right there, but a lot of really great detail around on this. You will have a seam on the top of the shoulders there like that, but I think once you have the different hands and then the movable frame in this, it's going to look really nice. I do really like the overall design and proportions of this one. It's a shame that the visor is not an actual clear part, but it's just like metallic orange painted. But you got the camera up there. All the pre-painted details do look really nice. This is really going to benefit quite well also from some panel lining. There's some panel lining on here, a couple of decals, and some top coat, and it's going to look really nice. Obviously painting in some of these details around here at the back side. It's like got nice detail painting here for the accents and things on the front, but the back side's pretty bare, so painting in some of this is going to help quite a bit. Anyway, just fixed pose here, so nothing else to see with this version. Let's go ahead and swap out the frame. All right, for the frame set, we've obviously got the movable frame. Once again, a beam saber that's going to leave a little bit to be desired. The shield, connection part there for the shield and the rifle, and some marking stickers, which again is really going to be really cool considering the fact that we have two of these in this box set. So you can choose different marking stickers for your two different units. That's pretty cool. There's the frame set. Here's the accessories, and yeah, the sticker set is going to be really quite nice just to give you some options. So let's go ahead and check these out. All right, looking much better now with those different hands, and then now that we have much better articulation. So again, you have a much better range of your posing options here for this guy, having some really nice articulation. The arms, legs, in the waist section, your head, you're able to do all sorts of great poses now with this, so it's really nicely posable. We do have some more hand options here. You have another set of holding hands for the left and the right, and these are different in that the wrist is slightly bent back like that, and that is for holding its rifle. And as you guys know, the kind of signature rifle of Gym Custom has this clip out the back there, and trying to hold that in the regular hand is going to be an issue, so that's why we have our alternate hand options. And you do have these for the left and the right side, so if you wanted to hold the rifle in the left hand for some strange reason, you can do that as well. Even with the bent wrist hand, I will say it's still pretty tight and it's a pretty snug fit to get that in there, but works pretty well anyway. And as you can see, it's all in just that dark gunmetal. Like with the Shining Gundam, our beam saber is unfortunately just all in dark gunmetal as well, but interesting design for that. Very thin beam saber effect for that. And our shield here, the shield is nice detail. That dark blue is pre-painted on there. Connection piece here for the arm, decent detail on the backside. For our stickers, let's see, I'm gonna go with this one. I can tell you guys right now, with all that detail there, you're gonna have a hard time getting the sticker to lay very flat and look proper. There we go. I've set it to W for Wumbo,
Anyway, yeah, really cool design and nice set of accessories for this. This one seems like it is pretty nicely stacked in terms of the accessories. You got the different options, the beam rifle, the beam saber, the shield, and then the stickers are a nice touch as well. It gives you some good options, and especially since we have 2 of these in the box, you can put different marking labels on the 2 of them. Could be kind of cool. Okay, last and certainly not least, and really the entire reason why I decided to pick this set up in general, was the Zeta Gundam. So the armor set, obviously gonna be, as we've seen, just pretty basic itself, but the frame set is awesome because not only do you have the shield and beam rifle, but you have the Hyper Mega Launcher, which is awesome, and the Ver.Ka MG unfortunately is not going to have included. I'm quite disappointed about that, but let's go ahead and check this guy out. As we've seen with the other ones, it is mostly all assembled here already. Just gonna have to place a few parts on there and then we can see what it's all about. All right, here he is, and I know I keep harping on the hands on these, but in this one, it looks especially weird because it looks like he's wearing black gloves, and I know like the black hands have, you know, been kind of the wrong color on all of the kits so far, but I don't know, because the Zeta has so much white and then having those black hands on there, I don't know, it just looks especially weird. Anyway, of course we got plenty of black here on the backpack, and so it's obviously missing colors, the red striping on that, but you get your stabilizer out the back, and the wings on the back do look pretty nice. The details and everything on here are also really quite nice. If you look up here on the shoulders, you are going to have a seam line there on the shoulders, and then down here on the legs, the seam runs down the side of there. Unfortunately, kind of a shame they couldn't lay this out in a different way to make the seam line go anywhere else but like right down the side of there. But if you'll notice down here, you do also have the seam line going right through the middle of the foot as well. So I don't remember which series the Zeta was in originally, but considering that this is the revived version of it, I know that it's from an earlier series and this is the kind of re-release of it. So I know the earlier series, they were doing a lot of this with the seam right through the middle of the foot, and you can see with the newer ones, they're doing it differently in a much better way, so that it has much better reduction of those seam lines on there. So a few tricky ones on here, but otherwise it is a pretty good looking version of the Zeta. Obviously, yes, just aside from those hands, but it's gonna look much better, of course, once we get the movable frame in there and our other option parts. Let's take a look at those. Okay, and then as for the frame set, like I said, we already kind of went over what's going to be in here, but you can see a cool image there on the back side of how that's going to look. And let's go ahead and get it. Let's see, it looks like that's going to be 11 centimeters in length. They're making sure to note there on the box. Now what I'm curious about, there's the frame, is if this is going to be one solid piece, and it looks like it is it going to have any seam line or anything? Looking up close, and we'll take it out of the package here in just a second, but it looks like it is going to have a seam line on it, but there it is. Anyway, that is going to be pretty cool. And now our other accessories, the shield, the beam rifle, let's check them out. All right, with that movable frame installed, let's see some of that beautiful articulation here for the Zeta Gundam. It's gonna look really nicely posed just because I think, like I said, I think it's a pretty nice representation, pretty nice design here of the Zeta Gundam, and it's gonna look really nice. So with the stabilizer up, you can also fold out these little wings, and I believe there is an option set that you can get for this that allows you to transform this into Wave Rider mode. You cannot do that, as far as I know, with just this kit, but there's another set that you can get for this. But you can fold those little wings up, and you can see like how that's gonna look there at the backpack. But for our extra accessories here, just like with the other kits, the regular beam rifle is just all here in that black or, you know, very dark gunmetal there. No pre-painting for the camera lens or anything like that, pretty straightforward. The shield does have some painting on it in that the red is painted on there, which is nice. I mean, if it wouldn't have had the red, that would be pretty unfortunate, although it is hollow here, where I believe that at least the end part of that is just not supposed to be hollow like that. But there's the back side of the shield, the connector. The connection piece, just like with the Gym Custom, will allow you to place the shield either onto the side of the arm or to the back of the arm, depending on your preference for that. And then most importantly, the Hyper Mega Launcher, which obviously, as you can see, is all here in blue. The side handles will fold out on this, so like the guard part opens up, the handles can fold out depending on which handle you may need, the left or the right side. You should not have any issues holding that. You have your handle on the top here as well, so lots of options for how you may want to hold this. This is really, really nice, although, you know, it has seam line kind of all the way around it, so there's definitely going to be a lot of cleanup work required it is really nice to be included. So we'll take a look at how that looks on the kit momentarily. But to wrap up the review, guys, just want to give you another look at the armor versions of all these kits, so the static frame versions, and then some different poses using the articulated frame and the accessories. It's really nice that, at least for in America, I believe these are now all being sold, and maybe just anywhere outside Japan, I guess, that these are being sold as sets, because the armor sets on their own for most of these, you know, mobile suits, they don't really look that good, especially with the open hands. I mean, if you wanted to get that and you only want it just in a basic standing pose, you don't want any accessories, you don't want any articulation or posability, they can be fine. I would definitely recommend swapping out the hands, and I think some of the Bandai option set hands or like taking hands from like your 30 minutes missions kits or something like that could work probably pretty well for these, I would imagine. But it is nice if you're buying them like individually in the US and you're able to get them as a set is definitely the way to go, because I mean, having all the added articulation of the movable frame and then the weapons and accessories and everything included in there are really nice for these, so they're definitely going to add so much more to them. Now, I mean, are they still going to be better or just as good or worse compared to their HG counterparts? I mean, it's really kind of up to your personal preference. The design on them is obviously much different from the HG versions of any of these, and the scale is going to be a little bit different as well. So depending on what you want, I mean, if the cost is kind of similar, you know, I definitely wouldn't blame you guys for preferring the HGs, but if it's a design that you really quite like here in the G-frame line, I would definitely recommend checking them out. They're pretty cool as far as like really super basic model kits go, and there's definitely a lot of potential there for customizing them. And I don't know, maybe in the future it might be kind of interesting to do a contest where you can customize a G-frame model kit. It might be kind of interesting. We've had like the artifact contest in the past. I feel like this could be something kind of similar to that, where you have a really basic model kit to go off of, and there's plenty of options now. We have quite a wide range of options available in the G-frame line nowadays, so I don't know, I think it could be kind of interesting for a future contest. Let me know your guys' thoughts on that down in the comment section below. I don't know if these are really all that popular. A lot of people, at least in my audience, it seems like there's not a whole lot of people that are really collecting these. I think a lot of that is just due to the price and the quality of them compared to HGs and other model kits available, but I think it could be kind of fun. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Which of these in this set, between the Zeta, the Shining Gundam, the Zaku II FZ, and the Gym Custom, which is your favorite design from this set? I'm just interested to know, so share your thoughts down in the comment section below. And of course, if you guys are interested in checking out some more model kits and everything Gundam related, you can check the link in the video description to USA Gundam Store down there below the video. As always, guys, thank you so much for checking out the video today. If you liked it, you can hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment. Thank you all so much for your support, and until next time, guys, have a great day. I'll see y'all later. Bye bye.